In this video, we're going to create the beach for our city. And we could use the Unity terrain engine to create the beach, but it's much simpler and faster to use some geometry with a 3D modeling tool and a couple of quads. I'm going to use Cheetah 3D. You can use any 3D modeling tool that you like, or you can import this from your working files folder. Let's get started. I'm going to go to the Finder. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hide others. And here's my alias to Cheetah 3D. So I'm going to launch Cheetah. And the first thing I'm going to do is create an object, which is a simple plane. And once I have this plane, I'm going to resize it. It's a little bit small. This is just going to be the corner of the beach. So it's going to be 30 meters. I'm going to press tab a couple of times and type 30 again and press tab again. And that gives me the corner of my beach. And I'm just going to quickly come up here to Objects, Make Editable. That's just something you need to do with Cheetah. Now let's create another plane. And let's size this one to 160 meters by 30 meters. Again, I'm pressing tab 160, tab, and 30. And I'm going to position this so that it lines up with my first plane. And that happens to be 95 meters, and you can see this edge is aligning. Now I'm going to create another plane. And again, I need to resize this plane to this time 30 meters by 60 meters. And I need to position this one as well so that the edge lines up, minus 45. All right, now all of my edges are lining up. Now what I'm going to do with Cheetah is I'm just going to combine these planes into a single mesh. So I'm going to hold Shift to select these two and drag them inside this one. Then I'm going to click to select this one. And I'm just going to come up here to a tool that will import those children. And now I can select them again using Shift and press Delete to get rid of them. And now I just have one mesh. Now let's rename this mesh while we're here. Let's call it City Beach. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of some of the extra vertices. When I imported those children, there would be a couple of extra vertices at these corners, and I'm just going to weld them. And there's a tool actually that will do that for me called Optimize. And I'm just going to say everything that is within 0.1 meter, and I'll click Apply. So that's going to get rid of those extra vertices. Now we're going to need a material for our sand. So add a material, and we can name this material. We'll call it beach sand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a texture. And the texture I'm going to use from the environment that we imported, all of those environment things. So let me just load this texture. And I need to get into my project. So you'll have to navigate into wherever you saved your project, into your assets, into the standard assets, environment, terrain assets, surface texture, and all the way down here, sand. So find this sand. I guess I'll put this into your working files folder as well, so you don't have to search for it. Now that I have that material, I'm going to just drag it on, and you see I have sand. I'm going to zoom in a bit with the scroll wheel. You'll notice it's not mapped quite correctly, so I'm just going to quickly map the UVs. And again, there's a tool to do that. Tool, UV, and UV mapper. And it's over here. Now you notice there's this thing that says only selection. This needs to be unchecked if you're using Cheetah so that it uses the entire object. I'm going to change the UV scale a little bit. You can look at your sand and decide how grainy it is and what you want to scale the UV to, but this is what I like. And I'm going to write those UV coords. Now the next thing we need to do is go to edge mode and just select this edge. I have to hold the shift key down as I select this edge. And now I'm going to move that edge down a little bit just to give the beach a bit of a slope. How much you move it is going to be up to you. You can look at it later inside of Unity and maybe come back and adjust it or take my asset as it is. One other thing that you might want to do is just change the smoothing mode. These edges will look a little bit sharp otherwise, so just change it to Phong for a little bit better smoothing. Again, this is a pretty simple beach, so it's really not that important, but it's something to think about if you go in there and you see you have sharp edges. Anyway, that's good enough for our beach, so let's just save it, save as. And we're going to put this into our project right here. We're going to create a new folder in our assets. We're going to call this objects. And we're going to save this as an FBX file. And we are going to call it City Beach. And now we can flip back to Unity. I'm holding Command Tab to select another app. If you're on Windows, select another app. I think it's at the bottom of the screen. You can flip back to Unity. And you'll notice that our objects folder is here and our City Beach is here. Your folder might be closed. If it is, just open it. And now drag this into the scene as well. And let's reposition it kind of to the center of our water. And we'll be a little more precise here. So let's just call it 90 and 50. Again, it's not that important. What is important though is when we import this, one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure we have light maps. So generate light map UVs, you should turn that on. And also colliders, generate colliders, turn that on and apply that. And we're going to do that with pretty much every object, is make sure we have light maps and colliders. Now back to our City Beach. You'll notice that the water's lying on top of it. We need to move the water down a little bit. So how much you move the water down is going to depend. So you see it's at -2. You want it so that they intersect, so that the beach drops into the water. And again, when we get further into the game and we're driving our car, or we're walking around on the beach, we'll be able to see if that intersection is not perfect, and we can adjust everything then. We can move the water later. I'm going to just zoom in a bit. I'm using the mouse wheel and I'm zooming in. One of the things about the shader, if you look at the City Beach and you come down here and you see it's using the new standard shader, for flat objects there's quite a bit of reflection on them, so they're a bit shiny. There's lots of ways you can fix that. The easiest way is I'm actually going to choose a different shader. I'm going to choose a legacy shader that is just a diffuse. And as you see, my beach now isn't quite so shiny. So that's just a little tip. If you find that you have flat objects and there's just too much sheen on them. Let's save our scene. Very important to remember to do this. And with that, I'm going to end this video on creating the beach on top of the water. And we can continue building the VR city in our next video.